Well, I hope everybody's doing well on this, what day is it? Tuesday, November 15th, and this is the anniversary of a big tornado day in Texas in 1988. November 15th of 88, I don't have any archives for that except for some satellite pictures, but that date happens to come to mind here. However, it is pretty warm around here. We've had temperatures almost to 80 degrees where I'm at right now, and we're just continuing that pattern of very warm conditions. And this is a temperature anomaly chart for today, and it's showing that pretty much all of North America is way above average, especially up in Canada. They've really been getting temperatures like 20 to 30 degrees above normal. Now, you might point to this being global warming, but all of Northern Asia and most of Europe is below normal. So somewhere out there, it is winter, believe it or not. Also around the Greenland area into the Baffin Bay area, below normal also. So we're just kind of awaiting that inevitable pattern change, and hopefully that'll be coming before too long. Let's look at our weather picture here, and to start out I'm going to do the usual frontal analysis using guidance from the NAM model at INSUP. And so I'll pull up that chart real quick and get our 1,500 millibar thickness for this evening, and there's what our situation looks like right there. And let's go over that very quickly. Where do we see the very strong frontal gradient? It looks like that's out in the western U.S., and it is coming together pretty well. Not so much of a gradient out in the eastern U.S. You can see there's only about 4 contours from Miami up to Pennsylvania, and that's because high pressure has been spreading apart the temperature contrast in that area. So let's analyze this real quick here. Probably looking at something like that, and then our warm front through the Dakotas into Nebraska like that. And this is a large area of warm air advection in the Dakotas into Minnesota, so we're going to probably see some clouds, or maybe at least kind of a warming trend in that area. Most of the weather action, though, is from Oregon into Northern California. And the rest of the U.S. is pretty quiet. And let's see, what was I going to show you guys? Yeah, I was going to show you the trajectories real quick. And before I do that, I want to show you the surface chart. Here's the surface chart for the western U.S. And, well, you can see the front out there, certainly. Possibly running something like that. The wind fields get very chaotic in the western U.S., and it's not as easy to find the frontal systems. You have to use a combination of trends and look at your pressure analysis to find troughs and that kind of thing. It looks like it's along this line, and we also use that thickness chart for that. Another thing that you notice is the very dry dew points, and we've got 3 degrees right there at Cedar City. And temperatures are very warm. 60 degrees there at Ely, that's very high for that area this time of year, 68 right there. And I was going to show you a backwards trajectory using the high split model. And I did that for Cedar City here, where it's very warm and dry. And this is what the backwards trajectory looks like for Cedar City. It looks like the air parcels have been coming from the north, which is kind of strange, but we can follow that out to the Pacific. And you can see that there's a long trajectory over the past 5 days going almost all the way to Japan, and that kind of clues you in that it has probably been riding the jet stream. But even more importantly, look at the vertical profile here. Parcels that have reached the lowest 2 kilometers of the atmosphere have descended from about 15 to 25,000. That's been a very strong descent over the past 2 days. And of course, with descent like that, we're going to get very strong adiabatic warming. And one other chart we can look at. I've got so many charts up here, I almost lost it. Hang on a second. Yeah. Here's the... what do I got up here? Yeah, 500 millibar analysis for about 36 hours ago. And this is when that area of the western U.S. was under high pressure. So you see that very strong high here. You see a very large ridge. And so at the time, that is when we were getting that descent of air from the Pacific going strongly downward over Nevada and ultimately into Utah. So you can see there's kind of a component here over time. You're kind of watching these parcels move from one place to another, and with that descent we get that very strong adiabatic warming and drying. So yeah, it is raining in California finally, and I've got the AWIPS display up. Let me bring that up here very quick. I had the radar up. Let's see, it's starting to come back up here. Let me get this centered. Yeah, I had a mosaic up here about 30 minutes ago, and it appears that it has lost that. But we do have some shower activity there in Northern California, back behind that front, which is in this area. And as I've mentioned, this is an Anna front. In other words, most of the upper level lift is back behind the front in this area, and that tends to be very common with these western U.S. systems. And even a little bit of showery activity there in the Portland area. And you notice the very showery pattern. We were talking about cumulonimbus out in the Pacific over the past couple of days, and some of that is starting to move inland. So we're starting to get some of this unstable air making its way inland right there. All right, so what else do we got here? 500 millibar chart. Let me get that queued up. Okay, 500 millibar chart, looking at a long wave ridge across the western U.S. right here, kind of a long wave trough along the western coast. So we're starting to get this large area of lift moving inland. And another thing you can see here is the jet stream. That's going to fall in this channeled area. See, this is a channeled vorticity lobe. Your jet stream is going to fall in between the cyclonic vorticity lobe and the anticyclonic one. So we're going to find that about right in there. I can't seem to pick out a good pen color here. Green? No, that's not working either. Yeah, I guess we'll do orange. Anyway, there's the jet. So it's starting to make its way inland, and we're going to find the surface system in this area between the trough and the ridge. It's going to be located, as a rule of thumb, about halfway in there where the curvature changes, right under the jet. So that's where we're going to find the surface low. And the cold front will be going south from that, and warm front to the east of that. And that makes sense because you can see this ridge here. That's being built up by the warm air advection streaming north over the warm frontal boundary. And likewise, the trough just off the coast is being built by the cold air advection coming in behind that cold front. So this is a way that you kind of find vertical consistency with all your different charts. Okay, before I get into the models, I want to go ahead and make sure that I've got everything covered. Yeah, there's our satellite chart right there. Remember, the front is located in this area. You can see all the clouds back behind it, and there's that showery. That's way off the top of the chart there. There's all that showery stuff coming in off the Pacific, starting to bring that instability onto the coast. Okay. And I think the last chart I had was one map I was looking at for Austin. I was checking out the radar. I noticed this unusual signature here. So you see what's going on right here? This is around Fredericksburg. And this other signature here, that's around Burnett or Johnson City, somewhere in there. These are bat colonies. You get bats coming out of these caves in here at dusk, and they spread out to feed at nighttime. And you get these little donut shapes. Very spectacular. That's a very common signature on the San Antonio and Austin radars there. Okay, let me just go over to chat and make sure there's no problems, no complaints. I think we're looking pretty good here. So, yeah, let's go into that forecast using pivotal weather. We're kind of liking those model charts. They're working out pretty well so far. So, here's what we're starting out with for tonight. Remember that front in Northern California extending into Montana. That's what we're going to be looking at over the next few days. And so we move forward. We move forward when I get the map to cooperate here. Let me see here. Okay, I got to get used to this. You have to use the greater than and less than keys to navigate. I'm so used to going to the cursor keys to do that. So, all right. For tomorrow, when we do our weathercast tomorrow, the maps are going to be looking like this. And we see a big change in Nevada. See that very strong thermal gradient right there. So that's right there around Tonopah down to Las Vegas, around Fresno. That's along the north of the leading edge of the front, coming into Los Angeles, coming into Las Vegas, and coming into Salt Lake City. And you can see very strong pressure jumps behind that front. And likewise, that front will extend up into Wyoming. And then out ahead of the frontal system, you see our lee side trough developing, and with an actual low center right here around Lyman to Burlington, Colorado. And that's what we usually see when we have very strong westerly flow across the Rocky Mountains. When you get that across a perpendicular to a range running like this, you will tend to develop lee troughing downwind of that range, and that's what we're seeing here. And that's very important because it acts like a vacuum cleaner, and it starts sucking moisture out from the Gulf like that. So that should start feeding up some of the moisture from the south. Okay, charts got out of sequence here. Let me go back. Okay, so for our webcast on Thursday, here's what our picture looks like. So now our system is coming out of the Rockies, coming through Las Cruces into the El Paso area, into Amarillo. And here's the warm front. And so it's going to be a very windy day there in Colorado, starting to bring some of that Canadian air southward through here. And also starting to bring in some Pacific air, kind of mixed in with that. I would say we've probably got a little bit of a polar front right in there. So Pacific air and Canadian air, kind of like that. And moving forward into Friday, it looks like our GFS has actually gone a little bit faster with the system, because now we find it on top of the Mississippi River Valley. There it is right there. And that jumped ahead of what we had yesterday. We were looking at something like that. And I was telling you yesterday, we would probably see something like this happen. Little bit of timing shifts back and forth. So in this case, we're looking at a bit of a faster trend for the model and possibly thunderstorms in this area. We may see some watch boxes Friday evening, possibly in this entire area. And high pressure starting to move in, and very strong northerly winds back in behind this. Looks very blustery for Minnesota and Lake Superior. Saturday night charts, very blustery across the Lake Superior region into Michigan. And I was going to show you something very cool for this particular instant in time. I'm going to show you trajectories for Dallas and South Bend, Oregon. Or not, we're a long ways from Oregon. That's Indiana right there. So where do you think this air mass has come from? See, we have high pressure over the central U.S., and you can see Dallas has probably had a little bit of a cool down. South Bend, they've got northwest winds, very strong cold flow coming through there, and you can see the thickness lines indicative of very strong cold air. So where does that air come from? Let's check that out. I ran the high split for South Bend, and I got this right here. So you can see we got a couple different trajectories. All of them have come out of northern Canada. One has come actually over the pole from Siberia. So a pretty good mixture of cold air sources there. The one for Dallas-Fort Worth looked like this. And here we see more of a Pacific origin. Some of it has been riding the jet stream too. And it does look like one of these trajectories had some very strong descent. Others, not so strong descent. And it looks like one of the trajectories has been very close to the ground. I'm not sure what to make of this, but the main thing is that we are definitely looking more at a Pacific source coming into Texas for this weekend. So let's go ahead and go forward and wrap this up. Forecast looking like this for next week. Yeah, we do get a very strong northeast coast system. I better show that to you very quickly. This is mostly going to take the form of some blustery northwest winds coming in for Sunday. There's the low pressure center over Boston on Sunday morning. Front already offshore. And the wraparound is going to look kind of like this right here. And it looks like mostly rain initially. And then that'll gradually change over to some snow. You can see it affecting the areas of upstate New York here. This is going to be for Sunday night. And then gradually that's out of the picture, and we start looking to the west again. Get another system developing here in Texas. You can see that coming together right there. This is going to be on Wednesday. That system moves into the Midwest. And once again, high pressure settling in back behind it. And then we're just going to see kind of a succession of Pacific systems coming in. Here's another one. This is definitely good news for California. They definitely need that rain, snow in the higher elevations there. And that will track into the plains for the 28th. And we're already past Thanksgiving here. So this is starting to get pretty far off. Okay, give me just a second to cue our closing music, because I think we're about done here. I appreciate you watching this, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow and we'll cover more of this stuff. If you have any questions or any requests, leave a comment on the video page and I'll pick that up tomorrow, and maybe we can go over some of this. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow.